Welcome to the Mischief. I'm Valen, and this is Silence's Turrets, a mod that adds in an unbelievable amount of turrets and their options. So let's start off with some basics. I have cannons. These are made with just a bit of iron, plus one of those driving cores, and some logs. I'm not going to be going into the multiple higher levels, because those are pretty much just going to have higher health and defense options, but they are pretty basic like this. And I'm going to put a few more. Having the attackers come in, you can see that it will just pretty much act similar to the arrows. They're rather slow firing, and they'll do a bit more damage than the arrows, but yeah, they're not the best, but they're a good start if you want to get a few basic kills in place. Just remember to put the chipset in your turret. Maybe don't put too much for the any of the upgrades that you might have spent a lot of hard-earned money on in your early ones if they're accessible. I do recommend that you put them up and out of the way, and not too far though. Here's why. If I have a zombie down below it, it's going to have a little problem trying to shoot that zombie. It might not even lock onto it. It might even just start shooting at its own base, which it won't do damage to itself. Other turrets will do damage to it, but it's just not really that good if it can't see the enemy. And even if it doesn't have anything underneath it, its own base will actually block line of sight. So it needs to have a little bit of an angle to do so. But if it is down on the ground, it is easily accessible, as you are seeing, and can be destroyed. So what I recommend is some kind of outcropping, like something like this, where it, I don't know, might look like it's better supported. In this case, this isn't actually blocking anything because the base is bigger than the block that it's sitting on. But it's also not going to shoot anything up here. For example, if I get rid of this broken one, I put down a new one, it'll have less of a chance to hit it if I've got some protections in place. In this case, I've just got this. But then again, any kind of walls that you put up here means that this is going to have a restriction on the area that it can potentially shoot as well. So you'll have to kind of balance the protection for the turret versus the area that you want it to be able to shoot at. And of course, this is only going to have so much of an area that it can reach. Once the mob gets a little too close, then this turret's going to be pretty useless. But if you have multiples, like one over here, it can then also shoot underneath this one. As you can see here, these three turrets can reach it, that one cannot. Next, we've got the dart launchers. These are probably my least favorite one, because they've got a very short range, a wide area that they cover, and they can hit themselves quite easily. So if I put down a single zombie here, you can see they kind of do like a bit of a shotgun effect, but they're also a bit slow to activate. And yeah, very easy, because they shoot kind of like a whole bunch of little stars out there. You can see some of my side turrets on the back of the castle are actually aiming in on here, but it's not that effective. It's alright, and it does work for kind of a bit of crowd clearance, but you're going to want to definitely give your turrets a bunch of protection if at all possible. Now this is probably one of my favorite ones, a heavy crossbow. These guys are really big and very beefy. They are very expensive. They require drive core level 3s. They require a whole lot of iron and everything. They fire really slowly, but they are worth it. Let me put a third one up here, and then you can see for yourself just how effective they can be once they start shooting. Now this one here is an acid eater. This requires an acid core. Those are made from driving cores with slime balls and glass bottles. Well, more or less just glass. And these will actually do kind of like a damage over time effect. They're not particularly really effective with like big hits. They're more a damage over time, like I said, just damage over time thing. Let me bring in some zombies, and you can start seeing that they'll start doing damage. It's just really slow, but it does hit kind of an area. You notice it hit 2 shots, and more than 2 zombies got hit in this case. These are Hellraiser turrets. They have a special effect of weakness on enemies, so they are particularly good at reducing the damage that the foes can well, more or less do. So with these in your complement, you might have weaker foes to deal with overall. They're made with those hell cores that I showed earlier, as well as a bunch of wood and iron, and you can upgrade these with all sorts of different items. Same thing with the acid eaters. They're going to have some different upgrades than the previous as well. Let me put this down. You can see here it only has 3 upgrade options. Basically more damage, even more damage, and a leakage effect that more or less will just kind of spill out acid in an area around it for any kind of mobs. This one here is going to have all manner of different upgrades that it can use that are more or less going to be all these little different jars, probably a bit more expensive, but they can really be devastating over time. Probably one of your first upgrades you're going to want to go for is an ice cannon. It takes a driving core level 2 and a bit of iron and a snow block if you have any snow nearby. And this is going to be useful if only to slow the enemies down. If I put down a couple here and I just start putting this in place, you can see I've got snowballs being fired at these guys, similar to the cannon, but it will also give a very good slow effect on the enemy. Once they get in front of it, then pretty much you just have some really slow troops that can be taken out. Now if you have something else that's a bit more heavy hitting or better firing, then this will definitely help and work really well in combination with some other weapons. Sentry Guns are next up, and they're quite effective. They've got a lot of knockback, they do a good amount of damage. They're probably a good all-around choice, because they'll also do a small area of effect when they do hit a target, as you can see there. Plus, you know when your base is under attack with those explosion sounds that they do. In order to make one, you're going to need basically a lot of iron and a driving core, level 3. This one's probably one of my favorite just because it looks crazy. It's sticky bomb batteries. These use hell cores plus a bunch of iron and a Tesla electric tower base, which is just a bunch of wood. You can upgrade these as well, and they do some really interesting stuff where they start attaching sticky bombs to their target, which then go off shortly after. So they take 2 series of damage. And the bombs that explode do have a little bit of an area effect as well. More with those Tesla electric tower bases, we've got a Tesla electric tower. This is one of those bases, plus a bunch of iron and a driving core level 3. This, you can't place it down as it is. I'm clicking, nothing happens. You have to put it on top of a Tesla electric tower base. So you put one of those down at least. You can put more if you want, but I recommend at least just one, just so that it can get a good coverage area. And then any mobs that come near it, for example, let's do a couple sets here. We've got 6 coming in. This is really going to be effective because it slows them down, constantly does a lot of damage, and they're barely ever going to be able to get to it. This is a fantastic one. There is a big drawback on this one though, and that is it's not upgradable. So I'm clicking on the top here, nothing is upgradable. I'm clicking down here and you can see all I'm doing is just like kind of moving my hand. So it doesn't take upgrades, and it will not really help you with keeping track of kills in your base. So you can't use chips in this in order to upgrade any of your other turrets. Adding more of these around your base will only just increase the coverage area. Like if I put another one over here, then that just means that the one that's here will be able to reach further out. There's no benefit, the damage doesn't overlap or anything like that. So these also won't necessarily be attacked quite as often. So it's definitely a big plus and minus on this one, but it is a lot of fun and a really good just constant damage item that you could probably put like behind a wall, so when people or mobs are trying to break through, you're doing constant damage to them if they've gotten that close to your base already, if the outer areas have failed to repel the attackers. What about in the water? What if I have foes attacking my base in the water? Well, not to worry, there are submarines. You can use a whole bunch of iron plus some driving core level 3s and make some of these. Now, they will place where you are when you right-click in the water. Boop, just like that. There's one there. Are they going to go anywhere? Not really. So let's just put a few of these out. Then I'm going to spawn a husk in the water, and you can start seeing they will shoot these little torpedoes at foes. It's quite entertaining, quite effective, and they do quite a good job, in fact. If you need to pick them up for any reason, just right-click and you'll grab it. You don't even need a glove. But that's the problem, though, because you can't upgrade these. Again, they're also going to be lacking any kind of chip slot or upgrades option in it, but at least you will have some underwater protection. Now we get into really ridiculous stuff that's also very fun, and that is going to be the candy turret. These are made with a bunch of honeycomb blocks, cakes, hay bale, iron, and a driving core level 3. This will make you a fantastic single shot and shotgun spread candy machine gun of sorts. I don't know. It's all sorts of random stuff being thrown at foes. There you go. They're going to shoot a variety of different sweets at the attacking enemy, repelling them quite well. I mean, it from like a spreading shot of sweets to a single, I don't know, donut. But that's not all. They can also be kind of fixed a little bit. In this case, their upgrades are a little different. Yes, I just took a little bit of candy off of that one, but you might be able to start upgrading them with what you see here, sugar or honey. Now you'll notice down here there's a 2.2 seconds. That's how long it takes for it to actually start firing. So if I put up to a stack of sugar in here, it can reduce it to a maximum of 1.3 seconds between shots. If you look, I cut that in half and it starts increasing the time that takes. Now here's something else though, and even better, if I put honeycomb in there, it'll go down as far as 1 second, but it does slowly use those up over time. So you're going to want to have yourself a honeybee farm, in fact, and then you can start launching these guys and they'll get taken out even faster than they could have before because of the increased fire rate that these have. All at the cost of a renewable resource instead of a more permanent upgrade. Alright, remember those dart launchers that we started off with earlier? Well, and how disappointed I was with them. These ones are a lot more fun, the giant dart launchers. This requires a driving core level 3, plus some iron and some wood. So as you can see here, they will shoot out these whirling discs of death, which, if anything, is very entertaining. And while enemies are in the area of the discs, they will be slowed and take constant damage. Next we have the Firework Launcher that requires a driving core level 3, some firework rockets, a bit of wood, and some blocks of iron. These shoot homing rockets. As you can see here, it's hitting all 3 of them at once. Not necessarily the best for straight up, targets at the beginning, but they can definitely be very effective if given an opportunity, because they can start shooting things around corners, as you notice here. Now we get into a little bit something different. These ones are electricity, more or less. This is a miniature electromagnetic gun made with some stone bricks, some wood, some copper, iron, and a driving core level 3. You'll notice that a lot of these are driving core level 3, so you have to have kind of worked through some levels in order to get most of these guns at this point. But these ones are quite impressive, if anything, with their ability to just shoot and slowly stun targets. As you can see here, even the baby zombie was having a little bit of a problem. Usually those are quick to destroy ground-based units because they can't keep up with them as fast, but these ones definitely had an ability to do a brief stun and some pretty good damage. Now these also have a completely different selection, a little bit more electrical focused, with lots of different defense, offense, and just some fun different options in there. The ball lightning generator is a little bit strange. It pretty much, I don't know if it's on purpose that it launches this ball into its base area and then it explodes and does damage in that one spot. I don't know if it's done on purpose like that because it doesn't actually shoot anything out. It has a a turret option, but I mean it just doesn't seem to go anywhere. Only does damage radiating out from where it's at. There we go. So you can see one of the charges made it a little bit further. But these are made with a bunch of iron, some bricks, and some planks. Next we have an electromagnetic gun. These shoot kind of a massive pulse in an area. They do pretty good damage, and they aren't too expensive either. The only difference between an electromagnetic gun and a miniature one is that these use deep slate bricks. Otherwise the recipe is the same, and they're just a bit chunkier and do a little bit more of an area effect. They don't shoot quite as fast as the other ones too. Next, we've got Electromagnetic Railguns. These are very effective. They do a little bit of AoE, but they just instantly kill things. These are made with the level 4 drive core, plus those deep slate bricks, and the same previous recipe as before. Now we do the big Mamba Jambas. These are black hole generators. They require obsidian, a drive core level 4, iron, polished diorite, and a bit of patience, because they can be very effective, but they're so slow to fire. As you can see here, they're just kind of thinking about it. But then when they do, they launch out these, well, basically miniature black holes that are kind of like shooting out into space there, and they will grab the target, drag it back, and do constant damage while it's happening. If it doesn't kill it, well, I'm sure it won't take much for it to die shortly after. You think that we're done yet, but we've got plenty more actually to go. We've got the Tyrant Cannon. This looks a bit more organic, and there's reasons for that. This one's upgrades are a little bit more unsavory, but they are more or less an average cannon. They shoot all right. They shoot just some kind of weird pellet in the air, but they can be again upgraded with the more or less the really strange things that cost a lot of resources in order to do so. And they can even have things like packs of blood. You put a blood pact in one of these things and it will use its own health as ammunition, but then it becomes vampiric with that ammunition as well. So yeah, these things can really be crazy. Also, the Tyrant Cannons require a bunch of bones, different kinds of meat, and a Hellcore level 4. An Amethyst Cannon is made with a Hellcore level 4, a bunch of smooth basalt, calcite, and a block of amethyst. And this makes, well, single target stopping really, really effective. So to give you an idea, let's just put a couple of these here, and if they get hit, they then start forming with different amethysts, which will then pause them where they're at. They can't progress any further and might get pushed away further each time that they get hit. And then they just keep taking constant damage. Now we've got Barracks, as well as a biological jamming device. These can be rather confusing. What the heck is a robot barracks? These are little deployers that build tiny robots that will then come out and start attacking or distracting your foes. Type C robot barracks more or less tells you the type of, well, ballistics that it might use. Type A and Type S, they're just the different types. Like before there was like the acid types and there was the hell types and stuff. But here, let me put down one of these here. This is the Type C. Yeah, this is the Type C robot. Let me end up calling in some foes so that we can have these guys come in. And you'll start seeing it just deploys a bunch of little robots. These ones are actually deploying acid, and you can see it has a durability. This is representing how many robots that it can have out at a time. Once it reaches that maximum, then it's pretty much done for a bit and it will need to recharge. Now, if you're worried about that with those foes gone, the durability goes back up. So this is great for short attack groups. It's not going to be the best because if you get a larger mob, then, well, these aren't really going to help too much, but they can help distract foes at the very least. Now I've got Type A robots, which then have the arrows, and it shoots these little drones out here that will then just start aiming at the characters. You notice that none of them are actually attacking the barracks themselves. So these can be really nice, and you don't need to worry quite so much of losing your robots, or turrets in this case. Plus you can put chips in there, so you can also help build up more kills. And then last we've got the Type S robots, which then have the kind of heavy explosives, where they will then keep the foes at bay, or at least distracted with the little drones that come out and just start wreaking havoc. And to make the Type C robot barracks, it requires an acid core level 3, cauldron, plus a bunch of wood. To make the Type A robot barracks, you're going to need a fletching table, driving core level 4, and a bunch of wood. And then to make the Type S robot barracks, you'll need a blast furnace, a driving core level 4, and a bunch of wood. And then last but not least, we've got this, the biological jamming device. This is rather unique compared to the other ones. It is a turret, and it shoots friendlies out to distract them. There's no chipset in this because it doesn't really do much for damage. Let me just show you what it does. So when you've got something that you want distracted from the base, it shoots out a little friendly, which then these guys are going to try and attack. It keeps them occupied. Basically, you're giving the attackers fidget spinners to keep them busy and occupied, so that they won't be attacking your base. Instead, they'll be attacking something like these little spinny guys here, keeping it busy. And yeah, it's pretty much constant. These ones don't actually have durability, so I can't imagine you wouldn't want one of these things near your base to help keep distracted, so that your base or its residents might stay better intact. And there you have it, another bit by bit. I hope you enjoyed this video. If so, be sure to give a like, comment, subscribe, and as always, stop by on Twitch or visit our Mischief of Mice 2 YouTube channel, where we upload our videos from Twitch, which we stream on regularly. Till next time, folks, I'll see ya.